question. Counselor Mills?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I have to get through a new group here. Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Webb?
Yes.
Counselor Chase?
Yes.
Counselor Foot?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. All right, we are out of non-public. Good evening, everyone. Just before we start, just a reminder that in case of emergency, exits are at the back of the room and to the side over here. And if you could please silence your cell phones. And with that, Counselor Foot, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
and to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Did a little out of order. We'll do our roll call now. Counselor Mills?
Good evening.
Counselor Healy?
Good evening.
Counselor Webb?
Good evening.
Counselor Chase?
Good evening.
Counselor Foot?
Good evening.
And Counselor Flood is unable to join us this evening. And good evening from Chair. All right, is there a motion to open public forum?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, public forum is now open. If you'd like, come on up. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes per individual.
My name's Crystal Morin. I reside at 64 English Range Road. And I took a moment to write this out in advance so I could be respectful of your time and make sure nothing important is missed. And I did pre-write it before I knew that Councilman Flood was not going to be here. So as I read it, if it sounds like he is here, that is how I originally wrote it. I previously served as a ZBA member for nearly 10 years, during which time I received no complaints and many compliments regarding my service. Given that, I was surprised by the decision not to be reappointed. I am here to respectfully request an explanation for this decision. Mr. Tripp was reappointed, and during that time we served together, we participated in approximately 90 cases together. We voted differently only 4 times, meaning we were in agreement roughly 96% of the time. With that in mind, I find it difficult to understand how my voting record could be used as a basis for my non-reappointment. While a member with a nearly identical voting record was reappointed. In the nearly 70 cases I've sat on, Counselor Webb, you've reached out to me 0 times, and I've attended every workshop. I make myself very available. You can't change what you do not know is broken. I also went back and reviewed all meeting minutes, as I believe it's important to understand where I may have gone wrong in order to learn and improve. Additionally, Town Councilor Flood, during your prior service, starting in 2022, I participated in approximately 117 cases, including case number 22-131, involving the proposed shelter in Hampstead Road. You emailed code enforcement in support of that project, and that instance represents the only communication I've ever had with you. Counselor Chase, I've sat on approximately 74 cases since you've been elected, and Counselor Mills and Counselor Healy, I've sat on 0 since you have been elected, so I am requesting clarification on the reasoning behind your no votes, as there appears to be limited direct experience to base that decision on. I've lived in this town for nearly 40 years. I'm the granddaughter of a retired Derry firefighter. Myself and my husband were educated in Derry, and so were our children. We own a dairy business. I volunteer for youth sports even when my kids were not participating. I I genuinely love the town and want nothing but the best for it. I've always made an effort to follow the town master plan, align with the vision set by the council, and apply the 5 required criteria in my decisions. Rather than simply not being reappointed, I would have welcomed the opportunity to be re-educated if there were concerns with my performance. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sorry.
Thank you.
Should I
So-
email?
So yes, so during public forum, it's not practice for the council to engage and have a discussion at this time, but yes, I think if you wanted to reach out to councilors individually, absolutely, you can do that.
All right, and normally how long before you guys respond, just so I'm not
I
a
don't,
pain?
it's, each of us have our own schedules, and so we kind of run, depends on what our schedules are, so I really can't answer that.
All right, perfect. I will do that tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we see none rise online.
Okay,
Move to close.
okay, motion to close public forum,
Second.
and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? All right, public forum is closed, thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. Are we okay to do the whole consent agenda together this evening? We should be, right? Okay. So on the consent agenda, excuse me, I'm going to apologize. I will probably have at least one coughing fit during this meeting. I apologize ahead of time. Consent agenda, item number 2628, to approve the non-public minutes for March 26, 2026. Those minutes are sealed. Item 2629, to approve the minutes from the public meeting for March 26, 2026. And item 2630, which will be Resolution 2026-020, to authorize the Conservation Commission to accept a conservation easement at 41 Ashley Drive and 37 Scobie Pond Road. You're not presenting on, do you want to present on the, it has here presentation, but we're not doing that tonight, right? This is just consent. So we will have, this is on the consent agenda for now because we have to have, we'll have to have that at our next meeting. So that'll show up then under the regular business. And that is it on the consent. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Counselor Foote and second by Counselor Healy. On the motion, Counselor Mills? Counselor Mills?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Webb?
Yes.
Counselor Chase?
Yes.
Counselor Foote?
Yes.
And chair votes yes, motion passes 6-0. All right, chair's report.
May I just ask a question? Is
Yes.
is your
Sorry.
microphone on? Because I'm having problems hearing you over here.
Yes, would you like me to talk louder?
Thank you.
I can do that. Sorry, I'm trying not to talk loud because of my voice, but I will talk louder. I apologize. Thank you. I'm surprised Owen hasn't yelled at me. All right. Chair's report. We have a few appointments this evening. So I would like to move to appoint Gordon Graham, reappoint Gordon Graham as a member of the Derry Commerce TIF Advisory Board for a term to expire March 31st, 2029.
Second.
All right. On the motion, Counselor Mills?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Webb?
Yes.
Counselor Chase?
Yes.
Counselor Foote?
Yes.
And chair votes yes, motion passes 7-0. Sorry, got my little... I also would like move to appoint, or reappoint Jacob Coughlin as a member of the Highway Safety Committee for a term to expire March 31st, 2027.
Second that.
On the motion, Counselor Mills?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Webb?
Yes.
Counselor Chase?
Yes.
Counselor Foote?
Yes.
And chair votes yes, motion passes 6-0. And last one is I move to appoint Anthony Henry as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a term to expire March 31st, 2029.
Second.
All right, on the motion, Counselor Mills?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Webb?
Yes.
Counselor Chase?
Yes.
Counselor Foote?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. And that is all I have this evening, so over to Town Administrator, Mr. Fowler.
Okay, so this evening I'll be presenting the first glimpse of the FY27 budget, but I do have a couple of other items of general information while Owen's putting up the presentation. So just want to remind the council and the public, we're going to be hosting 2 budget workshops this Thursday, April 9th at 6 p.m. We'll be doing the larger divisions, fire, police, public works. On the 16th, we'll be doing all of the other departments. Again, that's a 6 p.m. meeting. We will have a regularly scheduled council meeting 2 weeks from today, 7 p.m. That's April 21st. And then on April 23rd, which is a Thursday, we will have the FY27 budget and CIP public hearing. So if there's any concerns, questions from the public, all of this information is posted on the town's website, all the stuff we're going over today, and we will be reviewing in greater detail will be done during the workshops. And then the vote will be scheduled for Tuesday, May 5th. A couple other community information items. With the snow finally cleared, we're going to be starting mosquito control around town. We have a new vendor, Northeast Vegetation and Mosquito Control. Efforts are going to basically mirror what we've done in the past with some early season larviciding in catch basins and wetlands, and then monitoring and sampling occur over the summer period. And then if we reach the fall and there's a need for any adulticiding for Triple E or West Nile virus, that is done. It hasn't been done in Derry for many years. I can think it was probably back to like 2017, 2016 was the last time that we had done adulticiding. So generally speaking, the process is pretty straightforward, and I don't believe last year was a massively difficult year to manage in Derry and also throughout the state with those 2 mosquito-borne illnesses. So, but we are kicking that process off. Again, information is available on the town's website on that. Personnel, it seems like we're, every other meeting we're talking about somebody retiring. Tonight I want to just note that longtime employee Dave Blanchard, who's our engineering technician in Department of Public Works, he's indicated his intent to retire as of April 30th, 2026. I've definitely had the pleasure of working with Dave in my role as the Public Works Director. You'll never find anybody who's more polite and professional in dealing with our pavement management program. He really brings a lot of expertise there, and he's a large reason why we've had such a success in keeping one of the highest PCIs that we've ever had in the program. So we're going to miss Dave, and obviously he's still here for 3 weeks, but again, it's just another hole that we're going to need to fill. So I just wanted to give Dave our congratulations on his retirement. Other than that, I'll step to the main podium and start the presentation on, actually, Owen, we'll start with the budget first as opposed to the CIP.
Mike, while you're getting set up, I just wanted to jump back so I didn't clearly state, back on our consent agenda, the resolution for the conservation easement, there will be public hearings for that there's 2, I believe, so on the April 21st and the May 5th meeting, we will have public hearings for that. I didn't say that clearly. Thank you.
Okay, so preparation of the FY27 budget. It is definitely a year-long process. Takes a lot of staff time, particularly in the finance department, but there's many other data points that we need to look at. Throughout the year, we have projected valuations. We consult with the planning and economic development departments looking at what future valuations will be. I'm always keeping an eye on inflation data every month when that comes out. That leads us to our CPIU Northeast value. That is the allowable amount in December or after the December figures are available that determines what our maximum increase per the town charter is of our tax rate. We also coordinate pretty heavily with all our department heads on their staffing needs. We also ask all of our departments to get preliminary quotes on equipment and any repairs that they foresee in the future budgets. And then finance, there's projections from the CFO for motor vehicle registrations and interest income that are part of this. So it's an ongoing process, and it brings us to where we are as we break out where we're going for the FY27 budget. So just a quick slide. Current tax rate for 2025 is $18.99. The town portion of that is $5.39. That went up 14 cents last year, so 2.66%. We only control what's in the yellow. The other three components are not voted on by this body. Again, looking at the total tax rate, you get a single bill each time in June and December, but we are only 28% of that total tax rate. So how's the tax rate calculated? So by charter, which has been in place for nearly 30 years, it indicates that you take the last year's tax rate, you then can increase it up to, but you cannot exceed the percentage of the trailing year's CPI. So in this case, the inflation increase was 3.3% based on the CPI Northeast value, and that's a national calculation done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you look at the value for 2025, it's $5.39. If you factor in 3.3%, the maximum we can bring our tax rate to is $5.57. Based on some of the constraints we'll go over, I am delivering a budget at that tax cap. Obviously, as we go through this process, you may feel fit to change and alter that, but obviously by charter, we cannot go over that unless you do an override, and that's a whole different process that we don't necessarily want to get into. Besides that, the CIP purchases must fit in with the allowable increase without depleting the capital reserve funds for each department. So you can see it's a pretty daunting challenge with a number of different legs that we have to consider. So one other part of this is valuation. So April 1st of each year, you take what was built and new valuation gets put onto the tax roll, and that's what gets taxed for the 2026 tax year. We had estimated for this current budget cycle, FY26, new building at $20 million. The actual valuation that we received this fall was $55 million higher than last year, so that was a good figure. We went back, looked at what is actually being built, thinking about a couple of the projects on Rockingham Road and other places in the community, and we have a pretty solid estimate of $50 million of new valuation. So this helps you in the process of being able to expand your tax base and be able to afford some of the items that you have within your budget. And then also, we're talking about other development within the TIF district. We have Abbott Court underway, and that's going to support the TIF district expenditures in FY28 and beyond. So one of the themes is we're seeing some positive growth throughout the community, which is good, and it's been sustainable. So let's just look at the tax rate history. On the left side, you have the CPI figure. So we ran a analysis of the last 10 years, looked at the tax rate, and again, it's important to note that the tax rate changes when you have a revaluation. So for fiscal 27 or 2026 tax year, we are going to see a revaluation. So regardless of this number, when your tax bill gets delivered, it won't be $5.57. That will change, and I'll update the council and the public as far as where that is heading. But ultimately, no matter what, your tax rate cannot go up. It gets readjusted no more than 3.3%. Okay? If you look as far as some of those rates, most of the inflation figures were benign up until you reached fiscal 23 and fiscal 24. So those were the years coming out of COVID. And then obviously we've been trending at around or just more than 3% the last 3 years. So that's reflecting what I think you see in, prices for gasoline, for food, many other consumable items. Probably a little bit too much information here, but this just shows you the CPI Northeast table that I pulled directly from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and basically it's just an arithmetic average. At some point back in 1967, you had a basis, I think, of 100, and it just continues to go up, and it's an index that you use to look at where you were and where you are. But one of the things I wanted to highlight is looking at where we are February of 2026 versus July of 2017. That's about a 10-year span. And so our budget really is reflective of local, regional, and global economic trends. That CPI Northeast number is up 32% over that time period. But some of the items that we're trying to cover in our budget, salt, You look at the difference, that's up 47% over the same period. Trash disposal, that's up 65% as compared to the same period. So we're having to absorb some of these major increases within the tax cap. Another thing that is a major driver, and we'll talk a lot about this throughout the budget workshops, the cost of health insurance. All of our full-time employees have access to a plan. Generally, most units, it's 87.5%. Town coverage, 12.5 cost of the employee share. And if you look at the difference between each one of those, one person, two person, and a family plan, they're all up 90% over that same period. So think about how that impacts our budget. This is one of the major cost drivers, not only over the last 10 years, but also specifically in this year's budget. So we'll talk more as we go along with that. So how do we manage getting through the tax cap? We have to leverage state and federal grants. We talk a lot about going after grants through DOT, grants through various federal programs. It's really important that we keep that up because otherwise some of our programs we couldn't afford. We've done energy efficiency projects. We've done cooperative purchasing of materials. We also look at right time prioritized capital improvements. We have an effective use of fund balance distributed to different project funds and current for future needs. And then obviously in some instances we go without because it's not affordable. A lot of communities have curbside trash pickup. We don't. A lot of places have other layers within their departments that we just can't afford. So I think it's important to know that we have to make some measured, tough choices, and we always have year over year in this tax cap environment. And it's important to highlight that. So what does the budget support? So we obviously have a great emergency services department, 24/7, 365, fire police. Get a full service municipal center. We're open 45 hours a week. Full service transfer station. DPW operations keeps the roads in great shape and building maintenance. You have availability of 2 highly regarded libraries, and then a myriad of recreational activities and parks and cultural activities, ranging from summer concerts, fireworks, meals for seniors, things of that nature. Also, what else does it support? Access to governmental meetings through DerryCAM, support of social service programs. One note, water and sewer systems are not covered by the general fund. That is covered by enterprise funds, so only the users of those services are the ones that pay for those. And then the TIF district revenues support activities within the boundaries of that TIF district and also the Gateway TIF district. And the capital improvement program is covered within our budget as well. So looking at the details of the budget, I wanted to highlight some of the various levels. So if you notice, the general fund adopted number was $75 million. We're dropping down to $55 million. So on paper, that looks like we've done a wonderful job. But what that's indicative of is the way that we account for the $20.7 million bond for the parking garage at Abbott Court. So obviously now we're just paying principal and interest payments through the TIF district, and all of that flows through to the different revenues. The key number to look at is obviously as you go down, the revenues are reflective of anything ranging from fees, grants, opportunities we have to sell properties, all those various items of revenues, interest, those are all reflected in that number. At the very bottom, the tax rate, we talked about 5.39 to 5.57 is 3.3%. And on an average $500,000 valued home, that increase is $90 over what you're currently paying. So again, when you get your tax bill going into December of 2026, it will reflect this budget. In theory, it should go up $90, again, irrespective of what you would see for revaluations. That's a little different calculation. Some will go up, some will go down as a result of that. Looking again how we calculate that, you have gross appropriations, you have the revenues. Veterans credits are in there at $589,000. At this point, there's no change to that amount. But again, that's something that the council could ask to look at a future date and look for adjustments in the next budget, fiscal 28. And then we have overlay. So when it's all said and done, the bottom line there to be raised is $31,817,422. And then you divide that by the estimated valuation of $5.71 billion, and that's how you arrive at the projected tax rate of 5.57. So basically, it's just a math formula that you come down to, and that's what's going to get us within the tax cap. All right, looking at, again, some of the major cost drivers. We have full-time wages. That is up 5.2%. We just voted on 5 collective bargaining agreements, and that's reflective. Those will be in effect as of July 1, 2026. Health insurance, that has been the one item that has crushed us this year. That's a $1.3 million increase. That is up 27%. We don't have a lot of choices in that for now. We are looking to see if there are other alternatives, but this is something that we're going to have to cover in our budget in that front. Workers' comp is up 9.4%. Retirement contributions are up 7.1%. And that's merely a function of, if you're adding wages, it's a mathematical formula that gets pushed down. IT service contracts, that's up 4.8%. We do have a couple of areas that we have dropped. Electricity down 13%. That's as a result of our town buildings being on the new solar project and seeing a reduced rate. And then roadway maintenance, one of the choices we had to make this year, at least in the budget that I'm presenting, is we're going to be looking to reduce roadway maintenance from a traditional figure between 1.5 and 1.6 million. I'm going to reduce that in a one-year capacity by $250,000 to offset some of the other costs that you see above. One of the things that is a factor this year, you've got a lot of other paving that is going to be done on Shenito Road. It's going to be done on other parts of the community that are in conjunction with other projects that we're doing. So we felt that it was prudent to reduce in this area here. Our PCI is at 88, which is one of the highest numbers that we've had. So the road network, I don't think, is going to suffer as a result of it, but obviously we want to get that back up to a sustainable level in the fiscal 28 budget and beyond. So major goals, continuance of favorable momentum in our development. Core functions, we obviously want to keep our emergency and regular town services. This budget meets the tax cap at 3.3%. Addresses some competitiveness issues through the CBA Implementation Trust. We continue to support TIF district economic expansion, and it also continues to support our infrastructure growth, water, sewer, and Exit 4A. Again, more highlights. We're going to retain all staffing levels. Capital and debt service are funded in the FY27 budget. One area that we've talked about over the last few years is the addition of one full-time position. To support this development, we really need to get a third person in the code enforcement department. So we're proposing to add a building inspector into that budget, but we couldn't afford any of the other demands that had come up from other departments. Revenues in motor vehicle, that's up 4%. That's simply based upon the formula and obviously the cost of vehicles that come to us. Interest income, again, we looked hard at what those numbers were going to be. Things have not dropped as precipitously as we thought. So that's up 4% over last year. And then revenues from state sources, mainly rooms and meals taxes, that's up 2.6%. And then, as we talked about, we are looking to do a one-year reduction of $250K for the high PCI on our roadway management. So some of the variances we just went through: full-time wages, that's up $926,000. Health insurance, workers' comp, electricity, and our IT contracts. One of the things that we've done, I think, ideally over the last 10 years has been use of dedicated funds. So one of the areas that we talked about is the CBA Implementation Trust. There's been an account that we've banked money over the last 5 years, and looking to use $1.275 million of that to cover the costs of health insurance and our approved CBAs, which are the full-time wages. We're also looking to include use of $569,000 in fund balance. The budget also included a $444,000 use of COVID trust fund per previous designation by town council. And then, as we typically do, we moved $675,000 to the compensated absence fund. That's a contribution that we keep for when employees depart. They're often due a fairly substantial amount of paid time off that they hadn't used throughout their career, and we have to have a fund to cover that. So as we had talked about earlier, here's the schedule. We'll be coming back on Thursday for our first budget workshop, and then the 16th will be the second workshop. Regular council meeting on the 21st. The 23rd will be our public hearing, and then we'll vote on May 5th, 2026. So with that, I can take any questions that you may have now. I do also have a secondary presentation on the CIP, so we can either do that or save the questions for the workshop.
Does anyone have questions right now?
I'll save mine to the end.
Okay. Okay.
I'm good.
All right, we can go on to CIP in the moment.
All right, so we'll take a look at the CIPO, and you can put that up. Okay. All right, so I'll go through the CIP fairly quickly. A lot of it is specific to the departments, but just to kind of give a brief overview of the capital improvement plan. Typically, we're looking to do replacement of existing units due to age or the repair costs have been too expensive to sustain. We're also looking if there's any enhanced service need or opportunities. Sometimes we have a bonded or grant-funded project for utility expansion, or we have ongoing maintenance for roads. So generally, those are the four categories that you'll see within our capital improvement plan. Again, talking about the process, this is a year-long process. Department heads are out getting all their information throughout the year. They usually get their information to the town administrator by January of 2026. We'll review it at the CFO and town administrator level in February. We already did a presentation to planning board on February 18th. We then look to see how this would be incorporated into the FY27 budget. We'll go through our workshops, and then you will have an opportunity to vote and adopt on May 5th. So a couple of highlights, $62.5 million 6-year plan. From the general fund, it's $30.4 million. The water fund is $12.9 million. And the wastewater fund, it's $19.9 million. So it sounds pretty hefty at the onset, but we also have additional project funds that come from various grant sources. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. FY27 specific, the general fund $7.4 million, the water fund $11.6, and then the wastewater fund is $7.6 million. So total of that is $26.6 million. So it sounds again like a daunting number. But we also, for example, the Southern New Hampshire Regional Water Project is furnishing a grant of $11.3 million to extend water through Derry and make a number of improvements. Also, we look at $10 million of the $62 million is already ingrained within the budget for pavement management. Per your policy, unrestricted fund balance proceeds are distributed to each department's capital reserve fund, along with current fiscal year funds to make sure that we have enough funds to go ahead and handle those projects. I did skip over the fact that a lot of instances, these purchases are spread out over a 5 or 7 year financing package, which that allows us to spread. For example, a $150,000 truck would have 5 equal payments of $30,000 plus interest. So that gives us an opportunity to have some predictability year over year on some of these purchases. So again, here's your chart on your CIP projects. On the very bottom, we put together the slide showing the approximate net tax impact of each one of these years. You're just north of $1 per thousand on covering the capital improvement plan, but it's important because you don't want to have vehicles that are leaving too early in terms of having issues and not being able to do the emergency responses to plowing. So it is important that we fund this and make sure that it's sustainable. Again, just this chart that this stuff is all available on the town's website, and we'll go over this a little bit more in detail when we get to the CIP public hearing. But again, looking at the sustainability of the police capital reserve, you can see here that there are infusions, inflows, and outflows. And so when we do this, it's more than just a one-year look ahead. We have to look at the sustainability of funds that come into the capital reserves. So we're keeping an eye on that, and we're trying to keep those funds sustainable without tapping into anything that's deeper than what's available. Same story in DPW, and then obviously in the fire. I did want to point out we are monitoring fiscal 32 right now. We've got a slight deficit. Again, things change over the course of time. Obviously, we're not going to run the capital reserve fund for fire down to zero, but as it stands right now, all past and future obligations would trend us to be at just below the zero balance. So we'll monitor that, but there's no danger at this point. I just wanted to point that out, how we project this. All right, just going to run through a couple of the items in police capital reserve. They're going to be looking for 6 Ford hybrid police interceptors, $341,000, replacing, for example, a 2017 Ford Fusion. We have a Motorola service contract that's just over $93,000. And then one of the cruisers will be replaced, and it also will have an upfit for one of our canine units. In DPW, sidewalk machine, $200,000. This is an example of one of our trucks we're seeking to replace, $165,000. This is a frontline truck. A chipper that's just reached its age, $75,000. We're looking to replace 3 plow trucks that are the pickup size, 65,000 times 3. Code enforcement's going to be looking for, if we're going to support another person, we're going to need another vehicle for that person. So that's a $60,000 truck. And it's amazing for me to look at these things and see, that truck was probably $40,000, $35,000 not that long ago. These, I can assure you, these are not like souped up trucks that, we go through. These are very basic trucks that we're purchasing. A ball field groomer, one of the items to cut down on any potential for workers' comp claims and enhance our ability to do labor. This is a ball field groomer as opposed to some of the methods used previously, which were more labor intensive. We're looking to replace a structure at the transfer station that we use to park our trailers and keep them out of the weather. And then, as I had mentioned before, we've reduced the roadway maintenance down to $1.35 million. And lastly, fire. This is a big dollar amount. Engine 2 replacement is $1.3 million. So we're trying to address, obviously, age of some of these trucks and obviously the lead time that's also into this industry now. So we're aware of some of the lead times. We're trying to address those, but getting ahead of the curve before you have a critical breakdown is certainly important in keeping in our emergency services. This is a picture of an ambulance replacement, $446,000. Same sort of thing. I don't think the lead times are quite as bad for ambulances, but again, this is just a regular rotation of stock for one of the ambulances. In water, we've got a number of projects, but primarily it's the Phase 2 and Phase 2A and B for the Phase 2 water expansion. That's $11.3 million. Council has already voted to accept 100% grant funds, and that occurred on March 3rd, 2026. So it'll show as an $11.3 million project, but the net cost to the town of Derry is zero. In wastewater, couple of projects, 1,500 feet of effluent force main to be replaced at $1.4 million. We are currently working on moving forward with design for the Ryans Hill sewer, and within the FY27 CIP, you see a cost of $6.1 million. Those costs will be refined as we get more idea as far as where the piping will go. But we do have an EPA grant that covers $3.2 million of that, and we're going to be looking at other revenue sources to cover the remaining of that value. So those are the major projects that we have in the CIP, and those are all included within the charts that you have for that. So with that, I certainly can open up any questions that you may have on either the FY27 budget or the 6-year CIP.
Thank you. Councilor Webb, you had questions?
Okay, I have just some questions and comments, page of them, unfortunately. Thank you for presenting what I consider a lean budget. And just for the general public to remember that by approving all these CBAs and so forth, we've actually covered almost 90% of the budget because our budget really is personnel costs. They're not really concerns with what's in the budget. They're more management concerns to the year. And I think that there's going to be pressures on this year, and particularly in FY27, that we're going to be beginning to see inflationary pressures. You actually referred to some of it on page 413 in the capital explanation on the increasing cost of steel and aluminum and so forth. I think these are going to have some significant budget management concerns and maybe budget crafting in FY28. And again, start thinking about them now because, proper prior planning is good performance. Yeah. Because I do believe that we're at risk of a recession in the next year or two, and that we're going to be looking at increased costs in energy. I mean, diesel is now $6 a gallon, and that's roughly also you have to consider heating oil with that. I have concerns that is there going to be sufficient, particularly on the public works and fire side that use diesel, is the numbers that are in this year's budget going to be actually enough to cover, diesel expenditures throughout the year? And again, I know this is only 10% because 90% is still personnel. So that's one of the energy concerns I have. I think we're going to do well with electricity because of the solar offset. But capital, I think, is going to be, particularly when we're looking at the fire apparatus and other capital projects. Just a quick sidebar. Most people don't realize that we think of the Strait of Hormuz as oil. It's also aluminum. About 9 to 27% of the world's aluminum comes through the Strait of Hormuz, and that's fire apparatus and vehicles, even though we get a lot of our aluminum from Canada. We talked about health insurance, and I just want to emphasize that one of my goals as a counselor is we're going to need to, even if it comes out to say at the end of the day, what we have for health insurance is really the most cost-effective option. I think we owe our taxpayers to do a serious look at health insurance options with our employees and the unions. We've got some time before the next collective bargaining units increase. We need to be aggressive with setting aside money into our fund balance and our CBA trust, particularly in this year. It goes back into the management of the budget. And your job in the department heads, because I think there are going to be recession stressors, particularly in FY28, and that we may need to have access to the project money that the unencumbered fund balance allows us. Part of that is to be aggressive with regionalization projects. We've seen great luck with the Southern New Hampshire water project, but I'd like to see yourself and the department heads particularly look at how we can improve regionalization as a way to help reduce inflationary pressures, to improve services in the next couple of years. And the last thing I think is, again, we talk about 90% of our budget being personnel. I think it's being hampered on a couple areas through the vacancies. Mm-hmm. And I do have a plan that when it comes up as to maybe helping to improve that a little bit, but we need to get serious about recruiting because that's money that I think can be spent that will lower money. And the last thing I want to say is thank you for putting in a full-time building inspector. I know I've been hammering about costs here, but I think that, again, is we're spending money to save money with that full-time building inspector. So thank you. That's it.
Councilor Mills?
Maybe just to bring a little bit of bright news to the entire budget process is Councilor Foote and I both sat as representatives today in Public Works, and we approved all that water money, the regional Southern New Hampshire water money that's coming through Derry. And for that, Derry doesn't have a lot of expansion, but the way it works is that Salem is going through a large expansion with Tuscan Village and everything else and needs a lot more water. So when they actually put together a project through Manchester, it all has to flow through Derry, and we get to piggyback on that, and it's all getting paid through state grants, and Derry's getting all the benefits of the improvements. So that money is there already as of today.
Yeah. Anyone else? All right. We'll have lots more conversations about this in the coming weeks. Thank you.
All right.
Excuse me. All right, we have one public hearing tonight. Agenda item 2627 is Resolution 2026-014 to authorize the acquisition of property at 17 South Avenue LMG Master Agreement for Abbott Court. And back to Town Administrator Mike Fowler.
All right, so since this is a public hearing, what I will do is I'll sit here, and then that'll allow if there's any questions or comments to be done at the dais. So just to start off, this process involves 2 public hearings. So tonight there will be no vote. We're following RSA 4114A, so that'll be a public hearing tonight, a public hearing on the 21st, and then a vote would follow on May 5th. So no reading of resolutions tonight. So this is about the Abbott Court development that we currently have going on. The town is part of a larger master development deal that was extended last meeting. And essentially what we have here tonight is there's a small parcel that is attached or was attached to 17 South Avenue. So it's a triangular parcel that is 4,376 square feet, and it's to the south of the existing 3 parcels that the town owns. There was an action taken at the planning board on March 18th to merge the 3 town properties, and then there will be a lot line adjustment once the town council's action is confirmed, to bring those all into a single parcel. Eventually what would happen is there'll be a condo complex, if you're a condo document created, that the town and LMG are in a single condo arrangement. And basically what that means is we have rights that we have management of the parking garage, they have management of the apartment complex. And obviously, as everybody's aware on this, there's going to be some interaction, because obviously some of those spaces will be leased to LMG and some of the spaces will be retained by the town for general purposes for downtown parking. So this is all wrapped together, but the necessity of this triangular parcel is to provide, not so much in phase 1, but it's the potential for phase 2 development, which is some additional 20, I believe, townhouses. That hasn't gone to town council, to the planning board as of yet, but that's a future project that LMG is definitely interested in taking. But at this point, there were some contractual requirements that we had to close on this at this point. And so I can tell you that within this particular agreement, the proceeds to the seller is $270,000. And as such, that's going to be covered within the project budget, the $20.7 million bond, plus the other proceeds that have been brought over for the parking garage to ensue. So we're monitoring the progress of the construction as we speak. We feel confident that we haven't seen any substantive change orders that would change our ability to cover that. And so essentially the town council's vote would allow us, pursuant to state law, to accept that triangular piece, then the deed can be transferred, and then we can move forward with all of the other land transactions to make the condominium document whole. So with that, I can certainly answer any questions from the public or the council, but just keeping in mind that this is the first of 2 public hearings. We'll do this again on the 21st.
We have to open public hearing.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
move to open up the public hearing.
All right, on the motion, Counselor Mills.
Yes.
Counselor Haley.
Yes.
Counselor Webb.
Yes.
Counselor Chase.
Yes.
Counselor Foot. Yes. And chair votes yes. Public hearing is open. If you'd like to speak on this topic, make your way to the mic, please.
Madam Chair, just seeing plenty of folks online, I'll just take this opportunity to remind them they can, if they've dialed in, they can press *9 to raise their hand.
Thank you.
Tom Carden, 2 Cunningham Drive. I just have a question about that parcel of land. Does that go up the hill, or is it just right down there at the base?
It's at the lower part of the hill, so it'd be in the of Barker's property. It would be at the northwest corner of that parcel, so closest adjacent
to.
to.
Square kind of triangle piece
Yes.
like that
Yep.
goes up against the wall?
Yep.
And that's owned by Barker, so was that parcel subdivided so that?
Yeah, that's what the planning board action was to make a lot line adjustment so that that parcel that we call the triangular parcel would be incorporated into the Abbott Court project.
Okay, so it just kind of opens up the rest of those pieces of land
Yeah.
there in the back?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, we're seeing none rise online.
Move. Second.
We have a motion to close public hearing and a second on the motion. Counselor Mills.
Yes.
Counselor Haley.
Yes.
Counselor Webb.
Yes.
Counselor Chase.
Yes.
Counselor Foot.
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Excuse me, motion passes 6-0. Counselors, do you have any questions?
No.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Fowler, and we will talk about it again next time.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Last item of business this evening is 2632, Resolution 2026-017, to authorize an agreement for general assistance administration. Town Administrator Michael Fowler presenting.
All right, so as many of you are aware, the town has an existing contract with Community Health Services for our human services general assistance for our citizens. So formerly, this was an in-house operation. We had full-time staff. There was a decision made by prior council to outsource that, and we've had a very successful partnership with CHS since July 1, 2018. So tonight's action is to endorse the FY 2027 contract. I've had some conversations with their executive director, and they're looking to increase their cost by 5%. Now, this is for contract administration, so let me just clarify for the public that this is their contract. They provide services, walk-in, phone, anybody that has any needs. That's the place that they start. They're able to leverage a number of different service agencies. Then within the town's budget, we also have an allocation of $80,000 for general assistance. So if somebody has an issue with, they need rent, they need oil to be filled in their tank, that's the pot of money that it comes from. So there's 2 separate pots that support our human services, and then obviously a third leg of this is all of the other agencies like Upper Room, some of the other agencies that are within your budget. Oftentimes, people are referred to those agencies as well for some assistance. But tonight's action is just to endorse the contract at the new rate. We're happy to continue with CHS, and that would be for the next year, starting July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027.
Thank you. Any questions from councilors?
Seeing no questions, Madam Chair, I move the adoption of resolution number 2006-017 to authorize an agreement for General Assistance Administration FY27, whereas Section 5.1 of the Town Charter designates the Town Council as the governing and legislative body of the town, and whereas the town has retained the services of Community Health Services, CHS, to manage and administer its general assistance program pursuant to RSA 165 since July 1, 2018, and whereas CHS provides a comprehensive safety net for our residents most in need by collaborating with area social service agency partners and offering case management services with the goal of returning all clients to self-sufficiency, and whereas both the town and its general assistance clients have benefited from the utilization of these services, now therefore be it resolved in council that the town administrator, is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with Community Health to continue providing general assistance administration services until such time as said agreement is terminated by the town council. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage.
Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second it, but
You're probably going to say the same thing I am. We just need to update this resolution before it gets finalized. It says 2006 instead of 2026 at the top.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yep.
Other than that, are we all okay with the content there? All right. Any other discussion? Okay, on the motion, Counselor Mills?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
yes.
Counselor Webb?
Yes.
Counselor Chase?
Yes.
Counselor Foote?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Motion passes 6-0. Excellent. Counselor comments or liaison reports this evening?
I have nothing this far today. Thank you.
I'll make a comment.
Counselor Hill?
So I want to thank Ms. Moran for coming here tonight. Since she did address a few counselors directly, I'd like to respond. And, also for the record, I check my email daily, so if anyone sends any emails, I should be getting back to you within a day or two. I reacted to some of the comments made here, and I don't disagree with them. I think some of the votes could have been better, but I did some research after the fact, and I see that Ms. Moran was appointed first April 3rd, 2018 as an alternate, and then as a full member March 24th, 2020, and has been a member for a long time. And I think she brought up some good points that none of us reached out to her. So I do apologize for my vote, and I would probably vote differently if it was brought back. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Counselor Foote, you had something?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So spring is upon us. The Forest Hill Cemetery Veterans Project will be beginning the end of this month once the weather clears up and the ground's a little softer and we get rid of the snow for good. I know I've had some contact with the Pinkerton Academy National Honor Society students, and they'll be coming up with a service project on April 23rd at 3 p.m. to come up and help us get that project kicked off for the season. So I'd invite anybody interested in helping out, please reach out to me. And this, for clarification, it's basically cleaning up the veterans' monuments and the footstones up at the cemetery, Forest Hill Cemetery. So this is an ongoing project. We'll probably be doing this yearly, and we do this from the spring throughout the whole summer. Memorial Day coming up in May, we want to get it beautified for that, so please reach out if you're interested. Thank you.
Councilor Webb?
Just to respond to Ms. Moran, I typically answer my emails on the weekends, either Saturday or Sunday. My cell phone number is also, I believe, on the town website, so you're welcome to reach out to me that way as well. I usually have my phone on silent, except I forgot earlier, but I do return all phone calls.
I would like to say a big thank you to everybody that helped with our rabies clinic this year. We had another successful clinic this past Saturday. So the biggest thank you goes to our town clerk, Tina Guilford, who is my partner in crime on this venture, and her whole family. They show up and are critical to that functioning. I'd also like to thank the teams from Animal Rescue Vet Services in Londonderry and Orchard Village Veterinary Hospital Clinic, I'm not sure which it is, here in Derry. Both of them sent teams to help with the with the vaccinations, and we saw 67 patients, which was a little down from our last year, but we also kind of looked at who was coming in, and we're starting to capture some of those that only got their 1 year, now they've got their 3 years. So out of the 67 animals we saw, I think it was somewhere between 10 or 15 got 1 year vaccinations, and the rest all were able to get their 3 years. So that now people can kind of have that peace of mind for several years. So thank you to everybody that came out. It was the smoothest clinic we have had yet, and looking forward to next year.
Madam Chair, seeing no other business, I would like to move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good evening, everyone.